Hello and welcome to the Career Success Podcast. I'm Jason Connolly. If you're a regular listener, it's great to have you back. But if you're new, welcome to the show. In this insightful and thought-provoking series, we speak to business leaders and people who have had high levels of career success, but also up-and-coming and emerging business talent. We speak to such a variety of people all across the globe. We talk about success habits and what they do in order to ensure they stay at the top of their game. Listen and find out hints and tips to help you in the world of business. How do you set up your own company and make sure it's a success? But also, how to drive business growth and get your company noticed. Practical advice to help you with your career for those who have made it. In this episode, I'm joined by Jennifer Davidson from London. Jennifer is the CEO of Sleek Events, and she started that company in 2015 and has grown a boutique agency that specialises in connecting cloud companies and communities through unforgettable experiences and events. Her passion for creating meaningful and unique experiences has forged Sleek ahead into number 19 on the Sunday Times Virgin Atlantic Fast Track 100 and has allowed her to build a team that shares her passions and innovation. Jennifer's exceptional reputation in the events industry and also as a determined business owner has seen her named in the LDC Top 50 Most Ambitious Business Leaders of 2020, a finalist for the 2020 Demeter Award from the NatWest Every Woman Award, as well as accepted into the Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Business Programme. Jennifer, thanks for joining me on the show.
Pleasure. Thank you for having me.
So first of all, congratulations. You've just told me that you've just had a baby. Very exciting. So
Yeah.
we're very pleased to be joined by you in such an early time into the upbringing of your child. But tell us a bit about how you kind of got started and what was your journey into business and into Sleek Events. Let's start from the beginning.
So I studied business studies with German and Spanish, so nothing to do with events really. I had to do a placement year within that course and ended up in Hamburg working for Panasonic for 6 months, which touched slightly on events. And then 6 months in, I realised that being at that company wasn't quite for me. So I decided to leave there halfway through and start another placement for an events company. And that was sort of my first insight into the world of events. Realised how much I enjoyed it. Did my placement year, didn't really think much more of it. Went back to uni, finished my degree, and then started looking for jobs. And from memory, I think it was when there was a bit of a recession and it was quite hard to get a job. And with events, it's all about who you know rather than what you can do. And I ended up working for a property investment franchise down in Bournemouth for a year, which was very insightful, met a variety of different people from all sorts of different backgrounds. And that was sort of my stepping stone into the world of events, where I went in and built up an events calendar for this company that went on for about a year. And then after that, I decided to move up to London.
Because really interesting, because the events industry, it's a competitive industry in itself, and it even though you've only been established 5 years, you've had a huge amount of accolades. Tell us about how it's kind of become so successful so quickly, because it's not an easy industry to be in.
No, it's not. And it's actually a question I constantly find myself trying to answer, because I think the way I started out was very much after I worked in Bournemouth, I came up to London, worked for a sports marketing agency. And at that point, I was being paid peanuts for what I was doing. And I found that my management didn't really believe in my capability. So that was sort of my first insight into being in a job where people were trying to restrict what I felt I was capable of. During my time there, I got headhunted by Gartner for a maternity cover role, which I then went on to do. And I kind of, the connections I'd made throughout my first year, and I think this is where, going on the current pandemic, networking is at times totally taken for granted. Don't get me wrong, it's not something I thoroughly enjoy doing, but when you do meet the right people and you do find yourself in those situations, and the opportunities that can come from those meetings is, unbelievable. So I suppose, I sort of found myself coming along into these different jobs and then falling into this contract role at Gartner. And while I was there, my boss from my very first job, who was actually outsourced and owned a marketing agency, said, "I think you've got what it takes to go on your own. Would you be interested?" And obviously, as with most people, being self-employed is quite a scary thing. So I
It
did
is.
take the leap and thought, well, screw it, why not? In my first job, I saw a motivational speaker called Miles Hilton Barber, who lives by the motto, the only limits are those that we impose on ourselves. So that's sort of the approach that I decided to take from that moment onwards, and thought, well, if it doesn't work, I can go and get another job. And then as soon as people started hearing about the fact that I was doing my own thing, people that I'd met along the way started approaching me and asking me if I would work with them as clients. And that's sort of how it all started. So very small scale, and then one thing led to another.
It's very similar as to the way I've kind of started with my business. It was I worked for a recruitment agency, and then before I knew it, I had all my clients coming with me. When reading your bio, where did you get this drive from? Because you were brought up in an environment where there wasn't a strong, encouraging or a can-do attitude, and you were being told no frequently, and to expect to have limitations in life. Tell us a bit about that and where this kind of drive has come from, because it takes a lot of drive to start a business.
Yeah, I suppose it comes from the fact that you see other people live their lives in certain ways. And as simple as it sounds, we all have a choice as to which direction we want to go and how we want to live that life. So to me, it was never a matter of, can I do this or is that possible? It was more the fact that this is where I want to go. How do I achieve it? So a lot of the times I'm asked, what are the biggest downfalls or challenges you've faced, and how do you feel when you're in those moments? Well, to me, anything that comes across as a challenge motivates me more to be even more driven and successful. So I suppose even with COVID this year, as soon as it happened, I called a sort of emergency meeting, if you like, with my SMT, and we did a SWOT analysis on all the things we could do where we're finally presented with this opportunity of time that we all speak of so often and say, oh, if I had time, I would do a rebrand, or I'd do some marketing, or I would, do a course. And suddenly we had that time. So yeah, so to answer your question in short, I just didn't want the life that I kind of saw other people living. And to me, there
Oh.
was no other option but to press on forward.
Yeah, it was very much the same similar story for me. I think I've only spoken to my dad about 5 times in 4 years since starting my business. So I wouldn't say encouragement has been something that's been particularly forthcoming in my life. Have you had people kind of behind you pushing you forward and giving you that drive since you started the business, or is it very much something that really does come from within?
It really does come from within, but within recent years, since I've got with my fiance, he's definitely extremely supportive. And actually, we sort of challenge each other and motivate each other. And also my team as well. I don't recruit anybody that I don't feel like would feel comfortable challenging each other. So it's about making other people thrive as well. So the team and the people that I surround myself with, 100%, I expect to challenge them as much as I expect them to challenge me. And I think going back to this encouraging thing, it wasn't just family, it was also more, managed line managers or people that you worked with. It's people are so quick, if they see that you could be successful, they're so quick to try and refrain from you being able to be the best you can. And I think that was one of my main drivers for setting up Sleek, is to give people the opportunity to fulfill sort of their career ambitions, if you like, without being judged on their CV or their grades or what experience they've got or who they know. It's solely based on their passion and their qualities and what I think their own motivations, but also what I think they're capable of as well.
The potential they've got.
Yeah, exactly.
I totally relate to you. I think we've got very similar ethoses in our company, which isn't always easy to find. But I understand what you're saying about, I call them mood hoovers, the people who suck the life out of
Yeah.
any positive situation. And I think we all know a multitude of them. Talking about COVID, then, what was it that you decided to do? Because obviously, in an events company, you're very much relying on people coming together as one. How did you kind of decide what you're going to do? Because I think a lot of companies have actually done really remarkably well during this time, and I think if you're level headed and you don't necessarily think emotionally, you can really make the best out of this. And we made a number of changes. We've actually almost like a completely different business. I think we've done 5 years of evolution in 5 months.
Yeah.
But tell us about you and what Sleek have done and how you kind of adapted to this time.
Yeah, so as I mentioned earlier, we did a SWOT analysis as soon as lockdown was announced, if you like, and that was actually, strangely enough, the day that our commercial director joined. So I finally sort of had all the pieces of the puzzle when it came to the senior management team together. And it was always my plan, well, it has been my plan for 3 years to bring in a senior management team so that I could be more on the business rather than in the business. And Goldman Sachs course that I did helped me accelerate that and focus a bit more on what I needed, as well as some mentors outside of that. So we did the SWOT analysis, and then because it was so unpredictable and nobody really knew what was going on, I had really open and transparent conversations with the entire company as to where we were at financially, how we would be looking to move forward at every step of the way. So whenever I had a light bulb moment, if you like, or I felt like something was going to change, I'd immediately ask if everyone was around for a bit of a catch up so that I could be really open and transparent with them and make sure that they were informed. Then when we had our SWOT analysis, we basically prioritized the actions or tasks that we wanted to address in order of what we felt was most pressing. And then as briefings took place, we had calls following those to reassess whether those were still the most pressing or important ones. So the first kind of few months of COVID and lockdown, and even when it eased, and still continue now, while it's still, there is a bit of uncertainty and stuff is still changing, we have weekly calls where we discuss whether what we're doing is business critical based on the current market conditions, climate, environment, whatever you want to refer to it as, and move forward from there. So in that time, we've done a rebrand. Like you say, we've changed our company and our structure extremely quickly. And I think it is a godsend because we have grown so quickly. We were on track to hit a £10 million turnover. It was good to put the brakes on and just really step back and reassess and really refocus.
What do you think makes Sleep different from other event companies?
So we're really open and transparent with our clients, whether something's going well or whether something's not going well. We don't tend to hide anything from anyone. Our costing model is very transparent. Work as an extension of their team, really, in the sense that I used to hate when I worked for agencies, a client agency relationship where everything was it just felt like there was always a secret layer of what you couldn't say. And even when you talk to other agencies, the lingo of all my clients this and my clients that, it's not something that I really entertain that much. I'd say the open transparency, the fact that we are an extension of their team, we all work together, we celebrate together, we try and cover our agency fees within any savings and negotiations that we've got, so they're all passed through back to clients. And we just have fun with it. Events is a great industry to be in, and we're all really passionate and we love our jobs. And I think the great thing is that nobody that works for Sleek sees it as a 9 to 5 job. They see it as something they can be part of and somewhere where they could make a difference moving forward.
Like a lifestyle?
Yeah, 100%. Even though events does at times suck a life out of you, but we all have a really good time with it. So yeah, work hard, play hard.
I can feel that energy. I can feel it coming across. So tell us about some of the lessons you've learned, because you had a big lesson some way into starting the business after winning an event that wasn't quite damaging, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think that was probably at a time where I wasn't so business savvy, shall we say. I obviously started the business being an events manager, and going from an events manager to it kind of took me some time to come to terms with the fact that I was an entrepreneur. And then technically my title should be a managing director, and then it should be a founder. And I remember being at an awards dinner, and this gentleman who runs sort of a networking platform and base came up to me and he said, "Why is your job title on LinkedIn events manager? You're so much more than that." And I was like, "Oh no, it's fine." And he's like, "No, you're totally devaluing your company and everyone that works for you." And I was like, he's probably got a valid point. But yeah, so at that time, I didn't really think about it like a business. I very much just saw it as a case by case basis. It was a classic where, I was doing 110 things at once and wasn't paying enough attention to the numbers. And it cost us a bit of money, shall we say. But all the lessons are definitely worth it, because now I'm extremely analytical when it comes to figures.
I've learned very similar lessons, and some of the biggest lessons I've learned have been some of the most costly ones. So I can totally relate to you there. It's not easy, and I remember when I first started my business, I was so overwhelmed by even things like tax. I just remember I got into what someone classed as a tax black hole, where you spend more money than the money to take the money, more
Yeah.
money, and it was overwhelming. And I thought, how do I get out of this? But anyway, I won't start about my tax black hole situation. So, what do you enjoy most about leading a business?
Like just being around the people, actually. I think my team and the suppliers and everyone we work with, it's a real buzz. And I've really missed that, actually, with everyone kind of being remote and us not being in an office. We've actually just moved to our final sort of office for the next 5 years in Wimbledon, and I just can't wait to have that energy around again, and to
Mm,
see events come together. And one of my favorite things is we do an event for 15,000 people, and once registration is out of the way and the keynote starts, the buzz that you get from just standing in that room is just unbelievable, and it sort of recharges my batteries for another 12 months.
that's lovely.
So yeah, it's just, and it's also showing people that, I suppose, in a way, a little bit, it is proving people wrong, that it doesn't have to be about being a millionaire. I'm not in it for the money. I'm in it to help people achieve their career goals. For me to be able to make a difference and help people see what their purpose is something I'm quite passionate about. So it's a variety of different factors, but it's definitely being around the people that makes it so great. There's so many, it's such an intense industry that when you do spend a week with people, you just come away with lifelong friends.
I can tell. I can really get a sense of the kind of motivating ethos that you have, and the kind of inspiring atmosphere. I can really pick up on that, and it's the same for me every single day. It's the people that I go to work for, and yeah, I get the same buzz, but under a different umbrella. You're quite meticulous with planning your day. It sounds like organisation is one of the key things that you kind of really focus on, and something that you've really kind of embraced since starting your business. From reading some of the cover notes here.
Yeah, well, when life was normal, my diary was definitely my go-to down to the last minute. And then as
Okay.
sort of time goes on, you sort of adapt and change how you manage your day. And I think actually less is more now. And I'm reading a couple of these 80/20 books at the moment. So it's constantly tweaking and refining my approach. But it's definitely all about starting it on a sort of positive note. I journal every morning. I write down what I'm grateful for. I sort of visualize my goals, choose my attitude for the day, and some of the things that some people would call cheesy, but strangely enough, they do work. In because if you think positive thoughts and you sort of see where you're going to end up, before you know it, you are actually at that destination. So
Mm.
yeah, I like doing all of those sort of things, but I didn't always used to do them. I sort of started them after a really bad breakup where I was really struggling to get out of a rut, and after seeing a life coach to just try and work out what my purpose in life was before sleep really sort of took off. And I think all those things combined have sort of set me on my way, and yeah, have given me a really great platform to sort of accelerate on.
I love all those kind of things like goal setting, vision boards,
Yeah.
affirmations, the
Yes.
law of gratitude, the law of attraction. You're
Yeah.
definitely speaking my language. What does success mean to you as of current day?
You mean
How do you
like what do
define
I
it?
see
Yeah.
as being
How,
successful currently, every day, or
yeah. How do you define success? What does it personally mean to you? Being
it's
successful.
a very good question. I actually think I would struggle to answer this because I don't know when I'm going to stop, if that makes sense. I would probably say that if it's based on a day to day, I like to have little things I want to achieve, and to me, not a finished to do list, because let's be honest, no to do list is ever finished, but having sort of key tasks, if you like, that are completed by the end of the day when it comes to a day to day basis. But long term, I don't know. I think, like you say, my vision boards, that's sort of, I focus on short term, and I do a vision board every 6 months where I sort of adapt it based on where I'm currently at. So success to me would be very much achieving sort of over half of what is on that vision board, really. And then starting again and seeing where it takes me.
Is it quite a personal vision board that you do, or does it kind of encompass a lot of business things as well?
No, it's personal and business. I see my business as one of my now babies. So
Right.
it's just another thing. So my business is very much my life. I'm really passionate about it, and I'm not obsessed with it by all means. I used to be, but I've definitely found a different way to approach it. And having the senior management team in place definitely allows me to do that. So it's a combination of business, personal, and also just relationships and me. Really, I think it's good to have a reminder to not put yourself at the bottom of your to-do list, which I think we're all very guilty of doing a lot of the time.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. What advice would you give to someone who's maybe trying to set up a business now, having been through this and grown your business and got a senior management team in place? What advice would you give to someone who's maybe starting out in business or thinking, I want to work for myself, but I don't know where to start?
I think the common misconception of starting your own business is that you'll have a better work-life balance, which you definitely don't at the beginning. You really need to be willing to get stuck in. And, a lot of the times, like when I started, I did my books, I did my marketing, I did my social media, I did my website, I did everything. So I think the best bit of advice is give it a go. And if it doesn't work, you can go and get another job. So don't be scared to be put off. And if you've got to do a part-time job while you set something up, it's totally worth it in the end. You just need to be really clear on where you want to go and have that vision and goal setting. And I say that, but I probably only really worked out my vision and where I wanted to take it ultimately a couple of years ago, when after I'd met somebody else who owns a company, and they seemed very clear on the direction of where they were taking their company. And I kind of walked away from the meeting going, wow, okay, I actually believe that he's going to do that. He's really crystal clear as to what he wants to achieve, and I'm not sure if I am. And that sort of started my journey. So I think the other bit of advice is really give where you want to end up some serious thought, because if you've got that destination in mind, you'll find that your journey will take you there one way or another.
And I think what you said is right about turning your hand to everything. That's I think one of the real skills of an entrepreneur is being able to turn your hand to the accounts, turn your hand to this, turn your hand to that, and actually learn as you go. And it was actually an accountant I had years ago who told me that. And I said, I was having a general conversation. And I said, Jason, you take for granted that you're an entrepreneur, one of these people who can just turn your hand to anything in a business. Not everyone can do that. And I think it's something which I learned, that it's a skill in itself to be able to be that adaptable. So what's kind of next for you in the company? What's your kind of long-term goal?
So, a long term, we want to become the most sought after event agency in EMEA to work for and with. So, that's our destination, if you like, that we're currently focused on.
Love it. Very ambitious.
Yeah, I know. Well, if it's not ambitious, you're not likely to reach it. So you've got to make it big and scary to make it something worthwhile.
I agree.
Yeah, so that's where we're going to end up. In terms of where do we sort of go in the coming year, we've got our figures. I haven't changed our targets. We're still hoping to sort of accelerate our growth and become more efficient, leaner, and stronger, having had this time out. So really, we're sort of on the bench, if you like, waiting for things to restart up, which I 100%
Mm.
believe it will do, because the world isn't the same with events. And if anything, this pandemic has educated people more on what the events world is all about and why companies should invest in networking and events, because ultimately that's where they're getting their ROI and their relationship building, and that takes it to the next level.
Yeah. I guess it's an interesting question just to go back to COVID. How can you plan when one minute we're in tears, the next minute we're in lockdown, we don't know what we're doing in January? How is it to actually be at the top of a company running it? I personally think, the government are struggling. How's this rippling on to you on a day-to-day basis? And, how's it affecting your planning?
So, like I said, we've actually just reverted to short-term planning, in the
Right.
sense that every time an announcement's made, we've sort of got together and reassessed what we were planning on doing based on current guidelines. And we haven't really stressed about it. We've sort of taken everything with a pinch of salt. And if something's changed, we've tweaked and refined our approach to change with it.
Mm.
It's no different to when you're on site and suddenly shit hits the fan, if you like, and you've got to come up with a new plan on the spot. So for us, being a smaller agency and being agile and having that ability to make those decisions, and for the SMT to be empowered to make decisions, it puts us in a really strong position. So we've actually enjoyed the challenge.
How early on into having the business did you get a senior management team? Was it something that was quite early on, and how did you go about selecting the top people in your
It
business?
was one of the hardest things. I wanted them in place 3 years ago, and I only found everyone together this March.
And what a time to have them in place for.
I know, literally. So it's taken a really long time because it's obviously my own business. I didn't just want to recruit somebody who saw it as a job. So it was about selecting the right people, but then as I was selecting them, making sure that they would also blend and work together. So yeah, it took a really long time. It wasn't an easy process. There was a lot of sort of conversations. I'm not somebody who does formal interviews very well. So it was more about my gut instinct and more people in the company meeting them. It took a very long time. It was very hard. I went through several people that weren't right because they were scared of hard work, really. And trust is
So
a
for
big
you, it's
thing.
very much on your feelings, because I had someone say
Yeah.
to me the only thing gut feeling gives you is stomach ache, but I don't
Mm.
believe in that. I believe gut feeling is really important when
Mm.
running a business, and I use it all the time.
Yeah, gut
Um,
feeling, and also being able to sort of say what you think to somebody without them, getting sensitive about it, and for them to challenge you in exactly the same way. I think, it's about having healthy debates at senior management level and being able to sort of disagree and agree with each other and find a common ground.
Yeah, I agree with you. Well, and we have a lot of people who listen to this show who are going through university, they might have just come out with a degree. It's a really scary time at the moment to be a graduate on the jobs market, let alone even be trying to navigate your way through university. Obviously, you went through this process, and obviously, what you studied isn't what you're doing now. What advice would you give to someone who's maybe at university thinking, I don't even know if I want to practice what I've actually done for the last few years? What would you say to them in them trying to find their path and get on the career ladder?
I actually go back to my uni every year, and this year it was virtual, and speak to placement students. And I had
Oh,
a
okay.
similar question, and that's for Bournemouth. And really, I think the common mistake people make is that they leave uni and expect to sort of be owed something. By all means, don't work for free, but don't go into something a bit cocky, if you like, probably the right way. So I would
Self entitlement.
yeah, yes, I think that is basically a lot of what people perceive younger people applying for jobs currently coming in and just coming across that way. So I would just make sure that that isn't the case. And also, I think a lot of the time, I was asked, should I apply for a small company? Should I apply for a big company? I think people are approaching it the wrong way. I think they need to take a step back and really start with what values they aspire to, because you go to all these interviews for all these companies because they're big
Mm.
brands. You don't go to them because they're the right fit for you, and then you're upset if you don't get accepted. And I made the same mistake. I think people need to realize that every single company has a culture and they have a value, and they're looking for that in people, whether
Mm.
you're capable of doing the job or not. And ultimately, you need to work with the other, may it be 10, 50, or thousands of other people that work within that company already. And they need to make sure that everybody blends together. So, my advice would be really think about what matters to you, whether that's extra annual leave, whether that's money, whether that's a promotion prospect within a year, or whatever it is. And I would be really clear in the interview as to where you want to take it and what matters to you, because ultimately that's what I personally base recruiting people on. It's whether they are
Mm.
going to be the right fit for the people that are already in my company, and also for what we as a company stand by. And I think that's definitely the mistake I made. I looked at who the job was with and what they were paying. I didn't really look up any
Yeah.
more into what the company was about, or whether it mattered to me that, they gave Christmas as an added bonus holiday. And as time's gone on, I've realized that annual leave was something that really bugged me, and being able to ask for a certain time off when it's my life. Why should I only have 20 days off? So at Sleek, yes, we have a limit on annual leave, but I have no restrictions in terms of unpaid leave that people take. And there's certain things like that. But then again, everyone is motivated on something different. So I always encourage the team to feed back to me as to what matters to them.
Yeah, and I think you make a really valid point. I think that it's very easy to get wowed by, oh my God, this is a really big company. This company's got a great name. But actually, I think a lot of the time it's about what you said, the culture. It's about the working environment. Because I know I've worked for big companies, and I absolutely love my time at Virgin Atlantic. I had a great time there. But generally, I don't think I'm a big company type of person. I think I like not having corporate red tape, being able to be part of an agile business where decisions get made quickly, and I'm not a fan of bureaucracy and things like that. So I think that's a valid point. Tell us, on a closing note, planning the event of the year in any regards, what advice would you give to someone who is maybe could even be their birthday, a big birthday bash or a wedding celebration? But what advice would to someone to plan the standout event of the year? I'll just add that at the end.
Expect the unexpected. The smallest
Right.
things that you think couldn't go wrong could go or would go wrong. So have a contingency plan for every single thing you possibly can, and don't underestimate how long tasks take. I think that's a big thing when you talk to clients and you provide quotes and they're like, oh, but that doesn't take that long. And it's like, well, actually, if you think about the detail that goes into something, yes, booking a caterer may be simple, but you've got to research the caterer, you've got to talk about the menus, you've then got to negotiate the menus, you've got to do a tasting, you're then probably going to go back to the drawing board on some elements, you're then having to go back and forth, you then have to wait for them to respond to your emails, you then have to chase their emails. So every single thing takes a lot longer than a lot of people think, and I think that is a common misconception.
Thank you very much. If people want to find out more about you and Sleek events, where can they go, Jennifer?
So all of our website, our social media channels, and then as everyone else, you can also find me personally on LinkedIn. So all online.
Okay, and the website address is sleekevents.com
That's
is where people
correct.
can go.
Yeah.
Great. Well, thank you so much for joining me on this episode. Really interesting, and I wish you absolutely all the best. And hopefully, we'll have a vaccination soon, and we'll be out of this. But it's been great to talk to you. It's been a really interesting conversation. That was Jennifer Davidson. I'm Jason Connolly. This is the Career Success Podcast. Until next time, goodbye.